Okay, ready?
He knows where to find me.
We can't even see the. I can't even see the camera.
How tall are you?
Be like, hey, you guys, welcome to Downshift.
This is 6'1".
All right, ready? Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name.
Welcome to Downshift.
Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Paulo.
My name is Matt, and we have spent the week with Ram's RHO. It's the spiritual successor to that Hellcat-powered TRX, and it now competes directly with Ford's 3.5 EcoBoost Raptor. And there's a lot to love about this truck, so I'm going to walk you through the best and the rest.
Yeah, we're going to get behind the wheel, talk about some of the standouts and how it competes to the Raptor.
Let's do it. Foot down. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about on the con side of the video is hardly even, you could hardly even call it a con, because the truth is it doesn't really have anything to do with this truck, but it is the elephant in the room that we need to talk about. Now, the letters on the side of the bed say RHO, and if you've been on the internet, you know that that stands for Remove Hellcat Option. Obviously, it stands for Ram High Output, or RHO like they have on the plaque here, but this is obviously the story that's kind of plaguing this truck, is the lack of Hellcat motor. And no, it doesn't have the same bravado, it doesn't have the same kind of gravitas as the TRX, but to be honest, that has nothing to do with how good or bad this truck is. If this Hurricane RHO came out first, like the Raptor did before the Raptor R, then I think this thing would get a lot more credit. And judging it as its own thing, it's pretty dang good. Sure, the startup sound is a little quiet and a little underwhelming, but once you get it on power, it sounds like a trumpety BMW straight six. It's got loads of power, it's smooth, it's got a cracking gearbox, and it's good. The TRX was awesome, yes, but it was like a caricature where everything was so over the top. This RHO is much more of a well-rounded, dailyable, usable truck, especially if you're not generationally wealthy. And the truth is, that's really the only place that you could maybe kind of complain about this truck. But like with any modern vehicle, there's just a couple little nitpicks. Like, for one, the plexi plastic covering in front of the gauge cluster is super reflective, so I can always kind of see the stitching on the back of the steering wheel. And it would be nice to have some of the buttons on the steering wheel to control things like your dampers or your exhaust or your steering feel like you get on the Raptor. It's also a little bit strange that you have a 4 high and a 4 auto, but you can't go into 2-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. Not that you would probably do that often, but maybe it'd be nice to have the option. And as far as the screen and technology go, they can be a little bit laggy, especially when changing drive modes with the buttons under the RHO button. But if you use the actual screen itself versus the little toggle buttons side to side, it'll change drive modes a lot faster. But ultimately, with those little nitpicks out of the way, let's talk about all the places that this RHO shines, because it shines pretty much everywhere else. But the first thing I want to talk about is the engine. It's the Hurricane. And yes, I know this isn't the Hellcat engine, and yes, it will be missed. But I do want to take a second to appreciate this Hurricane engine here, because it's 3 liters of twin turbocharged straight 6 Fury. It's got dual Garrett turbochargers on it, making 28 max PSI of boost, and it makes 540 horsepower. That's almost 100 more horsepower than in a Raptor with the 3.5 EcoBoost. It makes 521 pound-feet. It does 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Yes, that's quicker than the Raptor. It's got equal length valved exhaust, so it sounds a bit better. It doesn't. Okay, so the interesting thing is, I mentioned before, this almost sounds like my M340 a little bit, like a BMW super, like turbocharged straight 6, because it's largely the same format, 3 liter straight 6 twin turbo. So if this sounds like a BMW M3, then the Raptor kind of sounds like a Nissan GTR. Doesn't really matter, it's neither here nor there. Now, this is rated for about 15 mpg, and this is kind of the big story. The TRX is rated for about 12. The truth is, in the real world, we did our Lakeshore Loop fuel economy test, 30 miles, country roads, freeway, city streets, came back with 17.1 mpg. That's fantastic. That's better than a Bronco Raptor, and it's way better than the real world like 10 mpg that you're getting in the TRX. 17.1 mpg with a reasonable exhaust and decent ride here makes this thing actually usable as a real world truck day to day. And while we didn't get a chance to take this thing to Road America to put it around their off-road course this week, there's no doubt in my mind that this thing would be an absolute unit off-road. Starting from the ground up, it starts with the enormous 35-inch Goodyear Wrangler all-terrain tires. They're wrapped around some silver finish unique RHO or maybe even TRX specific 18-inch wheels. They're beadlock capable and they look chunky and the business. From there, you do have 4x4 standard, of course. We talked about you can't put it in rear wheel drive, but with something like this, and when you're off-roading, you wouldn't want to. But underneath, you do have the Bilstein Blackhawk E2 adaptive dampers. They're the same that you got from the TRX, or at least they're the same branding. You do, of course, have a 2-speed transfer case, so you can go into low range, and you have a solid rear axle. And when it comes to that suspension, back to the Blackhawk E2s, you've got 14 inches of travel in the rear and 13 up front. And this thing is enormous. It sits way up off the ground, a full foot off the ground in terms of ground clearance. You've got a steel bumper up front with recovery hooks, and you have recovery hooks out back with a rear locker. So yeah, I don't think this thing would have many problems getting anywhere as long as it could physically fit down the trail. Now I do want to touch on the on-road experience. We talked about some of this stuff already, but it's pretty impressive overall. Now this thing kind of settles down where the TRX didn't quite as much. The engine makes smooth power and the torque just builds like a wave that you're about to surf. And the exhaust sounds like a sports car. The gearbox is smooth when you leave it in auto mode. If you shift it up into sport mode, and especially at the upper half of the rev range, this thing will bang and crack off shifts. And I really, really like that. You guys know I love my sound and my snap and the drama behind the wheel, and this delivers that. Now, on the other side of the coin, this doesn't ride quite as well as the Raptor with the Fox Live valve dampers. These Bilstein Blackhawk E2s are pretty good. It's close, but if I was gonna give a point one way or the other, I think the Raptor might ride a little tenth better. But this handles better. We'll go around a corner and this thing will stay more flat. It's weird, I feel like I'm getting more grip from these Goodyear Wrangler tires. It feels more sport truck than the Raptor somehow. It does though, when you're just driving it normally, fill up the entire lane here. So any little steering adjustments, I gotta make sure I'm still in my lane. So when you have the lane keep assist on, it gets kind of busy. Now the other thing, oh, this is a good place to demonstrate. We'll go into this 90-degree left-hander, brakes nice and progressive. Chassis just hangs on, and then I'm out of the corner with some nice kind of sports car straight six sounds to kind of go along with it. Now that being said, there are some noises that come into the cabin. There's some road noise, there's some tire noise from the all-terrain tires. You probably would expect that. But what I also get is turbo spool noise and some farts on the upshift. And it feels like a sporting experience, like a performance experience. This thing is still an event to drive. And I just like the way that that feels. It never feels cumbersome or annoying. It's good. It's a long-winded way of saying it's good and it's fun to drive. And from there, we're going to talk style and presence, two things that this truck has in spades. Now you have a new headlight design, which looks pretty cool. It's got almost a three-dimensional effect. But up above and really everywhere, you have venting. You've got venting for your hoods, your functional hood scoop. You've got venting around your lights for your wide body. And even your grille is updated like it was in the TRX with the hollowed out Ram logo for more air intake and airflow. You do have the flared body up front for your shoulders and your hips, and it necessitates the marker light since it's over 80 inches wide, and the ambers do look cool up front and menacing. You've got huge wheels and tires, you've got a bedside decal, and this billet silver looks fantastic in midday sun. The black accents look great on the silver, the flared body looks dramatic, you've got huge dual exhaust out back. I mean, this thing looks the business. It looks like a TRX if you took the RHO off the bedside. Now when it comes to the cabin experience, what's it like to just sit and be in this thing? We'll start with the seats, obviously. They're heated 3-level, they're cooled 3-level. There's a bunch of different settings for massage. You have a physical button for that, which is great. You're not gonna get massage in the Raptor. You do have stitched logos in the back of the seats. They're kind of leather and a little bit of suede here and there, but they're comfortable. They're not super like cushy, wumpy couch seats, but I think they're appropriate for what this thing is. Now in terms of the interior as a whole, the design, the materials and everything, you've got suede in your door cards, you've got carbon fiber in your door cards and everywhere else. There's just loads of different materials and textures that make it feel a little bit more expensive and a little bit more premium and upmarket. And I think it kind of feels a little bit more special than the Raptor. There's loads of storage, although I will say a little bit less storage than you would get in like a Rebel Ram 1500 because we've got an actual shifter here like we did in the TRX versus the dial thing that you'll get in the Rebel. But you've got physical buttons for your temperature and your fan speed, although not for, you know, your heated and cooled seat, which we've talked to death about. We've got Harman Kardon here. It's a good interior, and I think it might feel a little bit more special than the Raptor. And when it comes to truck stuff or duty application, this thing doesn't really miss either. Now you've got a pretty luxurious feature in the fact that you've got a powered tailgate up and down, and you've got about a 5.5 foot bed as standard with your crew cab configuration. It's the only way you're gonna get this thing. And you do have a standard power output in the back. There's no greater generator capability like you'd see with Ford's Pro Power on board, but it's still nice to have some power out the back. Your towing capacity maxes out at 8,300 pounds, almost 8,400 pounds. And off to the driver's side, you do have a bed step. It's not the fully integrated coming out of the tailgate thing like you'd get in Ford's bed utility package, but it's good enough to be practical and helpful to get you in and out of the bed. Ultimately, it's a 5.5 foot box. It's pretty practical, and it's got a decent payload as well. So it's gonna probably tick all the boxes you need, unless you need something more duty applied, like a Super Duty or a 2500 Cummins or something like that. So ultimately, it's gonna get you where you wanna go and all the stuff that you wanna bring with. And as I get my rock climbing gear to get up into this thing, we'll check out the rear seats. Now obviously I'm 6'1", I've got the driving seat exactly where I would have it, and I have a universe of knee room and an ocean of headroom in front of me, but there's also a little toggle down here where I can slide and recline the rear seats a little bit if I want to have more of a lounge aspect. There is no sunroof that we have here, but we do have speakers in the back of the roof. We've got dual cup holders, we've got vents, no climate zone though, but we do have heated and cooled seats, 2 USB-C, 2 USB-A, a household outlet down here, dual map pockets, some suede and leather kind of two-toning, that kind of faux carbon fiber in the door as well with your Harman Kardon speakers, totally flat floor, and these seats, they do fold up, and this center part folds down, and then you have a pretty nice and robust dual cup holder situation with another little storage cubby, and it's wrapped in suede. But don't sleep on the fact that here in the back of the Ram, you do have the secret little compartments underneath the floor. I wonder what those have ever been used for. But overall, the rear seats in the RHO, pretty practical and very spacious and comfortable. And when it comes to technology, this thing has everything you could possibly want. You've got a full head-up display with loads of different information telling you what street I'm on, what the speed limit is, and all that sort of stuff. You've got this huge fully digital instrument cluster, although we talked about the plexiglass, this plastic screen covering is a bit distracting, but you can get loads of different information in here depending on what you want to see. And then you have the huge vertically oriented center screen. It's good. I mean, it's a little bit, the black levels are good, the graphics are good, it's a little bit laggy at times depending on what menu you're in, but ultimately it's all right. It's got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's what I'm going to use most of the time anyway. You've got great 360 cameras and trail cameras. They're a little bit small. I wish they oriented them a little bit different to make more use of this huge screen, but the resolution is great and they work pretty well. I've got a digital rear view mirror so I can see out behind me no matter what, and I've got dual RAM chargers down here, which is their wireless chargers. They sit up vertically and they have a little port underneath so you can even plug it in if you want, but they work pretty well. And then your safety suite is pretty impressive as well. It's more or less hands-off, and it'll change lanes for you even, and the little button here has a RAM logo on the steering wheel like you have in the real truck. So from a tech perspective, home run. So I think it's fair to say so far that I've been pretty impressed full stop with this RHO. And when we talk about price, it's almost reasonable. Now the RHO starts at $70,000, which is so much cheaper than the Hellcat powered TRX started at, and more importantly, it's $10,000 cheaper than Ford's Raptor F-150 with its, of course, standard 3.5 EcoBoost. But as tested, it's $88,000, and yeah, that's a bit of money, but when you consider the fact that you're getting more power, more torque, all of the crazy body flaring, all of the off-road capability, and all of the interior usability and practicality, I gotta say, it kind of seems like a bit of a value. So with that, let's cover a couple odds and ends and then meet up with Paulo and go for a bit of a drive. Now, like I mentioned, RHO also kind of stands for Rhino, as you see here. And you get this center plaque. This is kind of a Ram staple, and it gives you a bunch of different information. You've got the engine, Hurricane, high output. You've got the turbocharger information. They're twin Garrett units, GT 2054s. You've got horsepower, 540. You've got your VIN number, and you've got your boost pressure, 28 PSI. And of course, where it was designed in Auburn Hills, Michigan of the US of A. And as you can see, the gauge cluster plexiglass is kind of curved, and that means it catches and reflects a bunch of light. So I can kind of always see the stitching and everything on the back of my steering wheel. It's a little distracting. I wish they kind of found a way to matte this out a bit. And then moving back and talking about the steering wheel itself, it's very cool, feels very substantial in your hand. You've got a little bit of carbon fiber accenting here. But one of the nice things about the Raptor steering wheel is that you had buttons on the steering wheel to control things like your exhaust, your steering, your damper control, and that sort of thing. I think that would be nice to have a little shortcut button here and there on the steering wheel in the RHO. Hey guys, real quick, Matt here. Just wanted to say I hope you've been enjoying the video. If you have, would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it does go a long way in helping us get access to cars sooner and get access to manufacturer engineers so we can get more information on the cars and get you more information so you can make better decisions. So would really appreciate you hitting that subscribe, like, comment, the whole YouTube thing. But with that, let's get back to the video. Dude, it's the shift for me, dude. Yeah. It is the shift part.
The upshift, it is nice. I like the blips.
It reminds me of the Quadrifoglio. It reminds me of the Stelvio QV that we were in last year. Obviously, different powertrain, but still, I think this has a lot of drama and a lot of fun and a lot of character. So why don't you talk about some of the things that stuck out to you this week?
Yeah, I think it's really impressive that they're able to extract 540 horsepower from a 3-liter inline-6 twin turbo.
Yeah, you were saying this is the same engine, generally speaking, 3-liter straight-six twin turbo that was in my M340, your wife's X3 M40, and that's making 382 there.
Right. Yeah, just think of the B58 compared to like this from like displacement perspective, cylinder perspective. Like, it's impressive.
Yeah.
So yeah, my standouts. I think one of the coolest things is the driver assist features, the hands-free that this has. Although it's not as good as Blue Cruise or Super Cruise, it's still really impressive and really good. I mean, I hardly had to touch it driving about 120 miles. Yeah,
it'll even change lanes for you. Yep. I'm not upset about it at all. I think the truck is wide, so obviously it fills up the lane quite a bit.
Yes.
So it can, in certain instances, and I drove it when it was super windy, so that could have something to do with it, but it did feel like it was working a little bit, but it worked well.
Yeah, no, it definitely has to work a little bit, but I think it works really well. And then the second thing I really like the way this thing looks. I think it's really aggressive. I personally think it looks better than a Raptor. I think it's just more distinguished and it stands out a bit more.
It feels more flared on the shoulders and the hips.
A more rugged, aggressive look to it, I think, than the Raptor.
I don't know if I have a favorite between the two. It's so close and it's such personal taste.
Yeah.
So agreed. I think this is a little bit more bulged and flamboyant. I think the Raptor's a little bit more geometric. So whatever your taste is.
Yep. And then just some stuff on the inside, like the vertical screen to me makes a lot of sense. The massage seats that we have actually work really well. Like, I find myself constantly putting it on.
Yeah, the rock climber setting is the best.
Yes, I don't often do that in a car that has massage seats, but they work really well here from my perspective.
Yeah, totally. I don't mind the screen. I think they could have reformatted some of the 360 camera stuff to make it a little bit bigger because the resolution's pretty good from the cameras.
Yep.
So there's just a little tiny stuff like that, like the little 3 buttons for Apple CarPlay is really small down at the bottom of the screen. But, that's nitpick more than anything. It's a little laggy at times when you're menu jumping. But other than that, I don't have a problem with the tech at all.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say on some of the negative standouts. Definitely a laggier system than
like a Ford Sync.
Ford Sync. But if you just give it a second, you end up getting through it. And then in terms of suspension, I think the Raptor obviously has a more sophisticated suspension for the people that are actually going to leverage it and use it on a consistent basis. Like, if you're going to the trails less than 10% of the time, I really don't know how much of is it worth it to you to get the Raptor over this? How important is the suspension components? Because I think this drives relatively nicely.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to pick, I think we haven't been in a Raptor for 2 years, so it's really hard to say. But the point is, I think this rides real well.
Yeah.
These Bilstein Blackhawk E2 dampers are great. There's plenty of sidewall in the tire, nice squish. There's not a lot of truck jounce, even with the bed empty.
Yep.
I think it's good. I think it rides pretty good.
And then the only other thing is I appreciate the power, but I wish that I had the drama and the sound of the V8. It's missing that, and I definitely think the Raptor sounds better from a V6 than you get in this.
Yeah, that was kind of something that I was a little bit like, I was left scratching my head about, because, you know, this obviously isn't the TRX, and we've probably talked about the TRX too much. I mean, mostly earlier when I was recording the pros and cons, but like, this kind of stands on its own, but it does lack some of that charisma, some of that bravado, some of that like over-the-top caricature personality that the TRX had, where you get the crazy supercharger whine, and the exhaust note is unreal. And this just feels a bit more muted. When you do a cold start, like it doesn't really, it sounds like a normal truck starting up. It just doesn't have that same theater. And obviously you could put an exhaust on it, and obviously you could make it sound however you want, but like out of the box from the factory, it's just missing a little bit of that like crazy character. Ram, Dodge, and Jeep do like personality so well. Hellcats from Dodge, obviously incredible personality. That Wrangler 392 from Jeep, incredible personality. The TRX, incredible personality. And this just feels like it doesn't quite hit on that aspect as much as I want it to.
Yeah, but I mean, to your point,
at least from a sound perspective, I should say.
No, that from the factory, I totally agree. But like to your point, I think if someone really wanted to fix that, they easily could.
Yes.
So I mean, I think, you know, my final thoughts are, I would personally get this over a Raptor because you get more power.
Yes. Yeah, almost 100 more horsepower.
I personally like the way it looks. I like the vertical screen. I don't off-road it enough to justify getting the Raptor over this, and I think the exhaust could be a quick fix too. And I think like the TRX is everyone's dream car, but this is like a realistic, obtainable version of that, to most at least.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of, you're hitting the nail on the head. You know, there's going to be so many people that talk about this in the air of the TRX, but the truth is this is not supposed to be competing with that. This is supposed to compete with the Raptor, and it has almost 100 more horsepower than the Raptor. It looks as crazy as the Raptor. I think the interior is arguably more special, and it does it for $10,000 less as base.
Right.
So I think from a value play, I think this might have it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm real impressed. I think with an exhaust on this thing, it would be near perfect.
Yeah, agreed.
It's incredibly thirsty, but what do you expect?
Yeah, that was surprising, is that it's only about 3 to 5 mpg more efficient than the V8. I saw it, we're averaging about 14. I think the TRX is rated at like 10 or 12 or something.
Like 12, but you get 10 in the real world.
Yeah,
in
so
like combined driving.
I mean, marginally better. I would have expected a more significant jump in mpg, but
yeah. If you're thinking this is going to be like the economical variant to the TRX, you'll have a bad time. You'll save money up front.
You're saving
on
a lot of
transaction
money.
costs. So no, overall, I'm really impressed with this thing. It was a lot of fun, and I hope we can get a Raptor later this year so we can like really kind of refresh our memory. But I had a blast with this thing. So thank you to Ram for letting us have a go. Thank you to you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.